Why did Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom break up after 9 years? Well, new reports are alleging it's because Orlando kept warning her about her cringeworthy space flights and desperate attempts at promoting her new album.
Why did Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom really break up after nearly a decade together? Was it just another Hollywood breakup, or did something much deeper happen behind the scenes? Sources are claiming this wasn't your average split, but instead, a full PR meltdown. Katy's bizarre space flight, a crumbling album release, and desperate public stunts may have pushed Orlando past his breaking point. And now, he's walking away without looking back. Katy Perry going to space was supposed to be a groundbreaking move to reignite her name, generate buzz for her new album, and remind the world she was still a superstar. But instead, it turned into a disaster. The 11-minute Blue Origin space trip was mocked relentlessly. Critics called it a vanity project. Fans cringed. And even Orlando Bloom, her fiancé at the time, allegedly called the whole thing embarrassing and cringeworthy. According to sources close to the couple, that space flight was the moment everything started to fall apart. Orlando reportedly tried to talk her out of it and warn her about the potential backlash.
Yeah, it imploded after singer made embarrassing journey into space. They were already on the rocks when Perry made the widely derided 11-minute space trip, which became a PR disaster. Perry in particular became the internet's punching bag for it, obviously, as we all saw. Apparently, she received little to no support from Bloom, who blasted the embarrassing debacle during an explosive row. He told her the whole thing looked ridiculous. A source close to Perry's camp told a Daily Mail, he said it was cringeworthy, embarrassing. This was in the middle of a fight, and it hurt her feelings.
In a world still recovering from a pandemic and economic chaos, Katy floating in space for buzz came across as painfully out of touch. And he wasn't the only one who saw it, but Katy pushed forward anyway. She believed it would capture attention and name her as independent. Instead, comments poured in calling her desperate, delusional. Even disconnected from reality sources say the argument between Katy and Orlando after the launch was brutal. Orlando told her the whole thing looked ridiculous, that she had stopped being the woman he fell in love with and started chasing Clout instead. And for Katy, that hurt. Instead of his support, she got silence. According to insiders, this wasn't a one-time disagreement either. For months, maybe even years, Orlando had been trying to hold Katy from what he saw as a spiral of bad decisions. But no matter how many warnings he gave, she kept charging forward.
Apparently, he was constantly trying to warn her.
He reportedly cautioned her against the new album, predicting that it would flop. He warned her about teaming up with the controversial producer Dr. Luke, who was still facing major backlash from his Kesha scandal. And he even told her to skip the space flight, believing it would make her look out of touch and desperate. But each time, Katy did the opposite and made their connection grow farther.
Katy's not been the same person for over a year now, and Orlando has had enough, says a second source, saying that Bloom is annoyed that Perry was never listening to his advice. He advised her against this album. She did it. Now, again, this album had a lot of problems, specifically the Dr. Luke of it all, the producer who was having so much accusations himself and with Kesha and everything else, and which Kesha says Katy knew, and then Katy basically was like, I don't care, I'm working with Dr. Luke again. Against all the internet and fans, it was just a dumb choice to go back to Dr. Luke, but she did it.
The problem wasn't just the bad decisions, it was how Katy handled them. She allegedly began using Orlando as almost a prop in her promotional campaigns. Suddenly, after years of keeping their relationship relatively private, he was everywhere. Katy started showing Orlando as part of the brand, instead of her partner. According to a source close to Orlando, he loved Katy for who she was, not the version of her trying to come back into the spotlight.
From where Orlando stands, all he ever wanted was for Katy to be herself, the source continued. He fell in love with her and who she is inside, but this past year, he believes, has brought out the worst in her.
The more she leaned into PR tactics, the more he pulled away. And after the spaceflight exploded, he finally snapped, during a fight described as explosive. Orlando allegedly told Katy the harsh truth, that she looked ridiculous, that her stunts were turning people off, and that he couldn't keep participating in a story he no longer believed in. That moment, insiders say, was when things shifted for good. Katy Perry's album was her attempted comeback. But from the start, it was clouded in controversy. And at the center of it all was a name that fans never wanted to hear again, Dr. Luke, the producer publicly associated with the legal battle involving Kesha. For years, Katy had distanced herself from the scandal. But when it came time to create her new album, she brought him back. Dr. Luke produced most of the tracks, and fans felt betrayed. Even people who had once supported Katy began accusing her of ignoring years of allegations just to score a few hits. The online backlash was immediate and brutal. Critics dragged the album not just for its association with Dr. Luke, but for its lack of direction, cohesion, and heart. Songs came off as hollow. Others felt overproduced and out of touch. And Katy's attempt to defend the collaboration only made things worse. Orlando, according to insiders, had allegedly warned her not to work with Dr. Luke. He'd urged her to consider the long-term damage not just to her career, but to her legacy. She didn't listen. And when the reviews came in, the tension between them hit a peak. For Orlando, the album was proof that Katy had lost her way. She tried to mask the album's poor reception with overexposure, like posting personal and often uncomfortable glimpses into their relationship to keep people watching. That included racy interviews, awkward jokes about their bedroom life, and social media moments featuring a shirtless Orlando, all posted simply for the algorithm.
She started posting the rare Instagram of her shirtless fiance. He needed more attention, so she decided to post her husband working out privately on Instagram. She took things further. She boasted about performing an X act on him as a playful reward to reward him during completing chores, which went viral in a bad way for her.
To him, it looked like desperation. To the world, it looked like a pop star grasping for relevance. And to Katy, not only was her career under fire, but now her relationship was hanging by a thread. Then came the Jeff Bezos-Lauren Sanchez wedding. Leading up to the celebration, Katy was set to tour in Australia, a schedule confirmed well before the wedding date was announced. But when Orlando insisted on going alone, things got ugly. Katy reportedly felt betrayed. She considered Bezos and Sanchez her friends, not his.
The couple's now sparring over who will attend the wedding of Jeff and Lauren. She will be on tour in Australia, which she announced months before the date was announced. Katy feels like they're really her friends more than his, yet he's the one going. And he's insisted that he goes, which annoys her because he's not particularly close to either of them.
So why was he so determined to attend without her? That's when the accusations started. Katy believed Orlando was using the wedding to reconnect with the Hollywood elite, to make connections, and maybe even start his own PR glow-up. And the irony was that had just slammed her space flight as embarrassing and cringeworthy. Yet now he was suiting up to party with the same people who funded it. And the hypocrisy wasn't lost on Katy. Insiders say Katy viewed the decision as a final foo from someone who was already emotionally gone.
She feels like it's an FU to her from him. What really stings is the hypocrisy. He complains about her going to space, and then he wants to go to the wedding of the people who made it possible for her to do this in the first place.
He wasn't close to either Bezos or Sanchez, yet there he was. And Katy was stuck halfway around the world. For her, it was one more reminder that her relationship was slipping away and that Orlando was no longer on her side. After the wedding drama, Katy Perry was losing more than just her relationship. She was losing control of her image. So she went into damage control. But instead of pulling back, Katy's PR machine kicked into overdrive, dragging Orlando with it. Suddenly, the couple that had been private for years was everywhere. Lovey clips of them were posted during album promo. They were staging candid couple workouts and dropping jaw-dropping interviews that blurred the line between intimacy and oversharing. For fans, it felt strategic, and Orlando was reportedly not amused. The most infamous moment came during Katy's raunchy appearance on the Call Her Daddy podcast. She joked about performing explicit acts on Orlando as rewards for doing chores. She even started referring to Orlando as her wild stallion. It was meant to be funny and edgy, but instead, it came off as tone-deaf and desperate.
She called Orlando a wild stallion. I don't need a red Ferrari. I can buy a Ferrari. Just do the effing dishes. I will S your D. It's that easy.
Critics slammed it. Fans cringed. And behind the scenes, sources say Orlando was humiliated. For Orlando, it was never about the attention. But for Katy, attention was survival. But the public was turning away. For nearly a decade, Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom had built a life together. They were parents. In 2020, they welcomed their daughter, Daisy Dove. They looked happy, grounded, even stable. But things were slowly breaking. And by 2024, their past wasn't enough to keep them together. The problem was deeper than fame or PR disasters. According to insiders, Katy's personality had shifted dramatically over the past year. One source close to Orlando said, "She's not the same person he fell in love with." While he wanted a quiet, authentic life focused on their family, she was chasing attention and relevance. Orlando reportedly tried to hold things together for the sake of their daughter. He supported her during public events, posed for promotional content, and stayed by her side. But once the doors closed, things changed. And Katy's refusal to take his advice, whether it was about her album, the tour, or the the space flight pushed them further apart. Friends say Katy felt unsupported, even betrayed. But from his side, it was about protecting their daughter from a media circus. And when Katy began bringing their private lives into the spotlight, it crossed a line, and while there's no public indication of custody battles or legal drama, what's clear is that both Katy and Orlando were operating on completely different wavelengths. That love couldn't keep together because, in the end, no amount of history could save what was coming. After the collapse of their relationship, the public narrative split into two paths, one for Katy Perry and one for Orlando Bloom. And while Katy was scrambling to control the damage, Orlando seemed to fall into bachelor life with quiet confidence. He wasn't doing interviews or leaking sources. Instead, he let the optics speak for themselves, and that can be louder than any PR. Paparazzi captured Orlando mingling at the Bezos Sanchez wedding, walking through Venice with other celebrities, and even briefly alongside Sydney Sweeney.
And yeah, now he's out there embracing bachelor vibes in pajamas with Bezos. That's what he did on the treadmill too.
Suddenly, Orlando was being positioned as the cool and collected one in the split pair. Then, during the wedding party, a clip surfaced of Oprah placing her hands gently on Orlando's shoulders. It was a small, friendly gesture, likely no more than a polite greeting, but tabloids ran wild. Oprah comforts Orlando, headlines claimed. Fans speculated they were discussing Katy, that Oprah was offering emotional support. And the message was clear. The public sympathy was shifting in Orlando's favor. Meanwhile, Katy's every move was being dissected. Even her most loyal fans started to admit that something felt off. The same star who once ruled the charts with confidence now looked like she was trying too hard to stay relevant, and as Katy's career appeared to spiral, Orlando seemed to blossom. Media outlets praised his maturity, his quiet dignity, and his refusal to trash talk. And whether or not it was calculated, it worked. But in the end, this is about what the fallout reveals. Because while Orlando kept his distance, Katy kept reaching for control of the narrative. And with every new headline, her grip on that narrative seemed to slip further away. By now, even the most loyal Katy Perry fans are starting to ask, can she recover from this? Because what was once brushed off as a rocky PR moment is now looking like a possible collapse. Katy's carefully built empire seems to be crumbling. In plain sight, at the center of it all is her controversial decision to work with Dr. Luke. Again, something critics and fans alike warned would backfire. And it did. The backlash was swift, intense, and global. Audiences questioned her judgment, her values, and her ability to connect with a new era of listeners, and Katy didn't pivot. Whether it was posting overly done intimate moments with Orlando, making raunchy interview comments, or clapping back on social media, her tactics reeked of desperation. For someone who once sold authenticity and fun, the constant image management felt shallow. Industry insiders have begun whispering that brands and networks are pulling back from her. Endorsement deals are slowing, streaming numbers aren't hitting expectations, and even media outlets that once praised her are now framing her as past her prime. Katy Perry, once the queen of pop with endless #1 South, is now fighting to stay relevant in an industry that moves fast and is ready to forget her. And yet, the most painful part might be that it didn't have to be this way. According to those closest to her, Katy had chances to reset. Orlando reportedly begged her to take a break, to reassess, and to stop letting the industry decide her every move. But she didn't want to be forgotten. She didn't want to slow down. And in trying to prove she still had it, she may have pushed everything away. Whether she rises from this scandal or fades into the background depends all on what she does next. So, was this really just a celebrity breakup or the public collapse of a pop icon? Katy Perry's fall from fame was a slow fallout made from bad decisions, PR missteps, and the refusal to listen to the one person who tried to ground her. Meanwhile, Orlando Bloom walked away quietly, letting the silence speak for itself. Now, some fans say Katy was trying to reinvent herself. Others believe she self-sabotaged everything she built. But one thing's clear, this wasn't just a breakup. It was a breaking of trust, authenticity, and even her identity. So what do you think? Was Orlando right to walk away? Or was Katy just misunderstood at the worst possible moment?